All right, good morning, everybody. Injustice. Few things stir the human heart and soul like injustice. When we see it, feel it, experience it, it's heart-wrenching. It's not enough for a person who looks like me to say, I'm not racist. This kind of talk and thinking, it typically lends itself to a posture of neutrality, indifference, and passivity. It's easy to be silent and do nothing when it doesn't directly impact you. This attitude simply doesn't evoke any conviction about doing what is right and standing up for the inherent dignity and rights of all people, no matter the color of their skin. I stand firmly behind the Colts statement, and in particular, the phrase that says, "We abhor racism." Racism is vile, deplorable, detestable. There's no form of it that is acceptable, and in no way can it be justified. Our Black community has bore the brunt of this injustice far too long. I believe that we all have a personal responsibility to speak up and to act in ways that build each other up, not tear each other down. I believe each one of us can make a difference if we're willing to grow personally and display the courage necessary for us to take steps of progress in this most important of issues. Just felt compelled to make a statement. I've spent some time writing and just wanted to share personally. I know we issued an organizational statement, but spent some time thinking and writing a statement that would reflect my own personal views, and just cannot be silent. Want to be proactive, and so want to do my part and feel responsible. So open it up to questions.
Okay, we'll start with Zach Kiefer.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Zach.
Football seems second tier right now. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen from Indianapolis this weekend and everything that's happened. And have you been in contact with your players, and have you guys talked about everything that's going on?
We did talk about it as a team last Thursday. I don't know if there was any way to properly address it as a team, on a Zoom meeting. But myself and Chris Ballard did get on the Zoom meeting, shared a few thoughts with our team last Thursday. It's hard to know the exact thing to say, but I just knew that we had to say something because, we are a family and as a football team. And even though I can never fully understand, right, we have a hard time fully understanding sometimes what other people are feeling. There's just something innately, I think, that we all know inside when we saw what happened in Minnesota, when we see what happens in general in this issue, innately we all know something's wrong. Something must be said. And I just felt like we couldn't be silent. And so Chris and I agreed that we were going to get on there and talk to the team about it. So we're just trying to, what we talked about was individually and organizationally the responsibility that we have, given the platform that we have, to try to make a difference.
What was the players' response, if you don't mind me asking?
I did open it up for comments, and obviously a few players said things, and you guys know our players. Our players understand the responsibility, and they're hurting. Many of them are hurting and feel the pain of this. And because of that, I feel it as a coach. I feel when someone in your family is hurting, we all know it. If you truly believe that it's family, when someone in your family is hurting, then you hurt. And so I think that's at some level what we experienced. So just to listen to that a little bit, it wasn't a long conversation. A few players spoke up, but like I said, in that forum, it's probably not the ideal forum to talk about something like that, but I just felt like we had to do something.
Okay, Phil B.
Morning, Coach.
Morning, Phil.
Thank you for your time. You're in a difficult spot there talking to guys. You can't cross the line and tell them not to want to peacefully protest, but at the same time, you got to worry about a team and players and their safety and well-being. I mean, how do you handle that? If a guy says, I want to peacefully protest, and you know there's a risk there?
Yeah, and sometimes it requires taking risks, and I trust our players. And I wouldn't be foolish enough to try to tell them how to display and act on how they feel inside. As family members, we can talk about it, but every person has to make that individual choice for themselves. I know a couple of our players have peacefully protested, cleaning up in a city, of that type of thing, and some others. So obviously, I hope and pray for their safety, but I also understand that we're all trying to do our part in the ways that we think is best.
Thank you, Coach.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Frank, thanks for doing this. Do you expect your coaches to come back, into the building anytime soon? And have players mentioned, coming back, obviously amidst all this chaos, maybe that's been put on hold a little bit, but can you kind of give an update on where you guys are at schedule building wise?
Yeah, at this point right now, I'm not thinking the coaches are coming back. We're being without the players there. We're in a rhythm and a mode where don't think we need to disrupt that. There's other limitations on being in the building and the number of people that can be in the building. So it has a domino effect. And I feel like right now we're in a pretty good rhythm. So until we get other information or other instructions, right now I think we're in a good rhythm. It's most important that the players can get back in there. And since that can't happen right now, I think we'll keep continuing the mode that we're in.
Okay, Joel Erickson.
Frank, over the weekend, have you been trying to reach out to people, that kind of thing, just to talk about what's going on and this?
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. And as I said, it's hard because it's real and the pain is real and what guys are feeling is real. And as their friend, as their coach, I in some ways feel that for them. So, but yes, try to reach out and try to reach out and to understand how your family is doing, to understand how they're feeling. That's part of, I think, for me to have a growth mindset, for me to help understand the issue better, for me to know what to say and how to act. I just think requires being uncomfortable and making phone calls and asking people how they're feeling.
Stephen Holder.
Actually, Kevin kind of asked my question. I was going to ask about the coaches potentially coming back and whether there was any value in you being in the building if the players aren't there, but you kind of answered that. I guess my question, the sort of follow-up would be, you talked about the rhythm that you're in. So are you, as coaches, are you really not sort of limited? How much, I guess, are you limited, I guess is what I'm asking, by being at home versus in the office? Has it really been minimal, given the fact that the players aren't there, or what would you say?
Yeah, I think it's been, minimal might be a fair word, because, and again, I just give our coordinators a ton of credit for how they have conducted with each of the, units, the offensive and defensive and special teams units. I mean, they're on Zoom calls all morning, preparing for the meeting with the players, rehearsing things, going over things. We've talked about this a month or so ago, that you do miss some of the little, impromptu conversations, but we still have those. I mean, I'll impromptu Zoom a guy and not even call guys anymore. I mean, it's just I'm Zooming guys now. So that's still happening. Our IT department has done a really good job. So we're able to access all the film that we need to access and watch all the film we need to access. That's all good. So I'm not condoning that we should get in the stay-at-home mode. I'm not going to ask Mr. Irsay if we can just stay at home all the time, but I think we've been really productive in this mode.
Okay, Jim Aiello.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, Jim.
You mentioned some players cleaning up, helping clean up cities. I was wondering, Isaiah Rodgers is out there. I was just wondering, are you encouraging him to do things like that? Other players to do things like that? And then specifically about Isaiah, what does it say about him, a new Colt who's out there already helping his community?
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of guys. Those are the kind of guys who have horseshoe qualities, who represent what we're all about. And we talked a lot. It's funny, ironically, as a team, the part of the messaging last week was, how do we mix individual identity and personality with team identity and personality? The previous week, that was kind of the theme of the message, because you guys know that I'm all about the players expressing their individual identities and personalities. I just happen to think that doesn't have to conflict with what the team value and identity is. In fact, we kind of found each other. That's why we're together as a team. So in part, because there's such a high level, because we do so much on the front end of understanding the kind of man that we're getting to be on our team, and not just the kind of football player we're getting, it's not surprising to me to see our players doing the right thing and saying the right thing. I mean, I just come to expect it, and I trust it, and I personally believe in them. I can't call every guy and say, hey, what are you going to do? And maybe can I see they, in some regard, I think they should be calling me and helping me, tell me what to do and what to say. And so it's kind of we should be helping each other. So that's the mindset. And Isaiah obviously has done a great job. I know a couple of our other players have done similar things.
Okay, Bob Kravitz.
Hey, Frank. I'm curious your visceral reaction when you saw the video of George Floyd being murdered.
What I said in the statement of literally heart-wrenching. I didn't see it until probably later than some, like probably a half a day later than I should have seen it. But just absolutely heart-wrenching. That's what injustice, I think, does to us. I don't understand it. I want to think that if I'm there, you can help stop it. It's wrong in every form. In particular, it's been aimed at the Black community more than any other, and that makes me hurt.
Okay, let's go Kevin Bowen.
Right. Curious if you've given thought to how you'll handle tomorrow. I think you told us last week you've gone to Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday with your team. Will you have an open forum? Will you lead with that? Will you try to be business as usual? Curious how you'll handle that.
I haven't decided that yet, Kevin. Obviously, I've been thinking about that. I think there's a time and a place for everything, and felt like last Thursday was a good time to say something. It was immediate. Just felt like we needed to get on it right away, and not be because just to show the level of impact that it was having on us as an organization and as a team, and wanted the players to know that from a leadership standpoint, Chris and I were on board. So. And the Irsay family, as we all know, are amazing in many regards, and the good that they try to do and promote in the community in many fronts, not just this front of social injustice. So I'll think through that the rest of the day and talk it through with Chris and a couple other people, and we'll address it, in whatever way we think is the best way at that time.
Okay, Phil B.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about your backfield. I know much is made about who starts games and it's usually, the common answer is about who finishes, not who starts. But in the case of Marlon Mack, he's returning starter. You got Jonathan Taylor. Is every job open? Is it truly open, or is there an inherent respect for the returning starter when you go into a season?
There's definitely inherent respect for the starting returner in my mind. So, and that's the way I see this. Although I think that I used the phrase, I'd like to think that I used the phrase. When I said it, or if I didn't say it, I heard somebody else say it, and I thought it was a good phrase, so I was taking ownership of it. That it was not the 1-2 punch, but the 1-1 punch.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to think I coined that phrase when I was talking about Marlon and Jonathan. I probably didn't, but in my own mind, I did. So I see it as a 1-1, and I see that on many fronts. The way the league has gone and the way role playing has been elevated in our league, it's made it prominent. Like we used to say in San Diego that when we had, for instance, Danny Woodhead, that he was not our starter, but he was a role playing starter. I mean, he had played such a significant role. He had 80 had 80 catches in a year. You look at a guy like Naheem Hines. We're talking about Marlon and Jonathan. Well, what about Naheem? I mean, Naheem's such a good third down back. He'll play a prominent part. And in some ways, he's a starter. He's a role playing starter. Your second tight end, your third receiver, those guys, the way our offense rolls, and even defensively, the way we substitute and get everybody involved, the role-playing thing is really accentuated, very important. So I like to see it as 1-1.
Thank you.
Okay, Stacey Dales.
Hey, Coach. I would first say thank you for your powerful opening statement. It was really powerful. So it's kind of hard to ask a football question, but given your history with Philip, how would you say the growth has been with him specifically between you, Nick, and Philip through this virtual off season, as he kind of knows what you guys want to do, but he's with a new team after all these years?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is adapting to our personnel here and some of the small nuances and changes that the offense has evolved in since Nick and I have been with Philip. Obviously, I was with Philip for 3 years. Nick was with him for 5. So it's evolved and it continues to evolve. Obviously, we brought a lot of elements of what we were doing in Philadelphia into the offense. And so of things of which Philip wouldn't have experience with, but in many ways he does, because there's somehow a lot of plays are related. So it's adapting to those new plays and philosophies, and then also getting to know the new personnel. And even though we're not out on the field and you can't be developing rhythm and timing with the receivers, you still can watching tape. So Nick has done a really good job with the offense of watching a lot of tape, with the skill guys. And, Philip, with 16 years of NFL experience, when he watches tape, you can only imagine that he is able to digest things in a way, watching how T.Y. runs routes, Jack Doyle, Naheem, watching how these guys run their routes, watching a lot of tape of them, and then talking through it together, I think has been the biggest focus that we've had with Philip.
Okay, time for a few more. Andrew Walker.
Hey, Coach. I think it was pretty easy to look at the Trey Burton signing as a way to help kind of make up for what you lose production-wise from Eric Ebron. But I was wondering more about Mo Alley Cox and where he is in his development and his role. I think we have a good idea what you're getting out of Jack and Trey, but with Mo, how big of a year is this for him?
I think it's a huge year for Mo. We really feel strongly about Mo. I really give Chris and his staff, but Chris in particular has been in Mo's corner from the day we got here. Hey, this is this former basketball player. Frank, I really think this guy is going to develop into something. And he was exactly right. Mo is big. He's strong. He's tough. He's not, sometimes you might think the basketball player is a finesse guy. Mo's not a finesse guy. He is a powerful man. And so he brings an element of what a Y tight end brings about strength at the point of attack. And for us to run the ball like we want to run the ball this year, Mo, I envision Mo's going to play a big role in that. And he's going to get more playing time than he got last year. He's continued to develop and get better. And the other thing, you all see it, when Mo catches a crossing route, no one wants to catch him. Or if he catches a check down, he's such a big man. And so he has his own way of being effective as a pass receiver. I think that this last year, maybe the biggest area of improvement for Mo in particular was his route running skills. I think his footwork and his routes developed significantly in the past year. So I'm excited for what Mo can do this year.
Okay, two more, Stephen Holder.
Hey, Frank. I think we talked about this back at the Combine, I want to say, but you did obviously revamp the offensive staff a little bit by adding Mike. And I'm wondering how everybody, or those two guys in particular, Kevin and Mike, how they kind of settled into their roles, being that you're virtual. And I don't know, can you glean anything from the way it's worked so far?
Yeah, I think it's worked. I was expecting it to work well. I think it's worked even faster and better than I envisioned it. Now, you guys know me. I tend to be very optimistic and see the glass half full. But it works because Nick has brought great leadership to the offensive staff. You know, Nick brings a level of expertise at the receiver position that is easy for everyone to respect. So he and Mike and Kevin are a good team. And it's just going to help us as an offense because not only are they all three have expert qualities as far as coaching receivers, but they're all three have expert minds in the passing game. I really respect Kevin Petula has a great mind. You know, he's a former quarterback. He's coached quarterbacks a lot. He really has a good mind in the passing game. You guys know I know Mike Groh real well, and I really think highly of Mike's mind in the passing game and him as a wide receiver coach. And then couple that with Nick and, you know, Jason Michael and the rest of the staff as far as a pass game. I know we talk a lot about our run game, but I just think our pass game is going to take another step this year. I really do.
Okay, and last one, Jim Aiello.
Thanks. Stephen literally just asked the same question I was going to ask. So, yeah, I was just going to ask, I mean, for the new coach, for Mike, I guess, how easy has that adjustment been now that he hasn't really gotten able to get in the building much, and has he been able to kind of insert himself and feel comfortable?
I think so. I mean, obviously it'll be better when we can get out on the field and the guys can really get to know him. Mike is strong in a lot of areas. He's strong in the classroom. He's a really good teacher, but I think his strongest point is out on the field with the players. I mean, again, he's a former quarterback. He connects with receivers well on the field. I love his drill work. I love how technical and detailed he is on the field, working with guys, pushing guys. How his coaching demeanor on the field is really strong. You know, he really demands a lot of the players, sets the bar very high, tends to coach guys pretty hard, but in the appropriate way. So I think he's going to help our players. I think our players will respect him because I know he respects our players, and I think it'll be a good dynamic.